Good morning, good morning. Let's get a little Jesus, huh? A little coffee, Kingdom coffee. So, I was watching some Bible cartoons with my granddaughter, right? And there was a story of Gideon. And if you guys are familiar with that story, it's in Judges 6 and 7 and 8, I believe. I was listening to it over and over and over and over. And what really stuck out to me was, well, let me give you a little context. So the Midianites were like bullies, and I'm paraphrasing. Don't get it twisted, I'm paraphrasing. They were like bullies, right? They kept bullying the Israelite army and the Israelite, right, the nation of Israel. The Israelites would reap and when it was, or they would sow, and then when it was time to reap the harvest, the Midianites would come in and destroy their crops, take all their crops and take all their livestock, and it was just horrible, right? So Midianite, he was so terrified of Gideon was so terrified of the Midianite army. It said, this is what really stuck out with me. It says that he was beating wheat in the wine press. You don't do that to the wheat. You beat the wheat on the threshing floor, right? You got, like, how do you separate the chaff from the wheat? In the wine press, you know what I mean? In the old school hole in the ground, like, this is like 12th century BC, right? We didn't have all this fancy wine presses, but it just really stuck out with me. Like, he was that afraid of the Midianite army. He was beating his wheat in the wine press so that way his family will have some wheat to make, bread. And that really stuck out with me. I was like, man. And also, he kept questioning God. Like, after God was just like, yeah, I'm going to deliver the Midianite army into your hands, man. And then he sent an angel of the Lord, which was Jesus Christ, right? That's what I think, right? And what's the first thing Gideon says? I have seen the angel of the Lord. I must surely die. And he was like, no, you won't die. Just bring me an offering, right? So he brought him all the best stuff. And like, he says, oh, you'll deliver Israel from the Midianites. And not just the Midianites and their allies, right? The Amorites and all this. But this is what happened. So he took a couple of his homies, right? And he tore down the idols, the statue of Baal and all this stuff. And he burnt up everything. But he was so scared he did it at night. He was scared of his own people. And it's like today, right? Like, your own people are going to be the ones that get you. Well, anyways, like, it made me think, right? He kept questioning God after miracle after miracle. Like, God was like, the Midianites will be delivered into your hands. Don't worry. And he was like, I'm just a young man in the weakest tribes of Israel. Like, I can't do nothing. And what it was crazy because God was like, I'll give you a sign. Because you asked God for a sign, right? And he put his wool fleece down on the ground, and he went, and the next morning he said, well, if it's wet and the ground is dry, I know it's definitely from God. And what happened? The fleece was wet enough to wring out water in a bowl, and the ground was dry. And then again he questions God. Oh, well, if it's surely a sign, this time I'll put the fleece down and it will be dry and the ground around it will be wet. And what happens is, whatever he says, it happens. And he was still questioning God, like, he was like, he had to get his army down to 300 it was. And he was saying, what seems impossible to the world, right? Oh, that's not smart for you to do that, Gideon. For you to have an army of 300 versus thousands and thousands and thousands. It's not smart, Gideon. That's the Christians today in America. It's not smart, Gideon. But no, he did it. He delivered Israel from the Midianites with only 300 men. Read it for yourself. And I believe that. I truly, verily believe that. I have to. And I would love, and like I said, only it's because of the encounters I've had with God that I believe. So any atheist or whatever could tell me all they want. Oh, your God's not real. Well, explain to me how I survived with my neck wasn't even connected to my spine. I'm not paralyzed. I'm not dead. You explain to me how that was possible. My doctors couldn't even do that, Mr. Atheist. Mr. and Mrs. Atheist. My doctors couldn't even prove that to me. And what my whole faith is based on, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Find me Jesus' bones and then come talk to me.